listening to the Shite Talk podcast show. Shut up and sit down.
Welcome once again to the Shite Talk podcast show. Mark and Ken.
What's up?
On episode 251 of the Shite Talk podcast show.
Yeah, halfway to 502.
Yes, our next big milestone. Write that one down, everybody. 502 is going to be our next big milestone. So when we hit 502, if we're going to have epic surprises, we're going to do something massive. Absolutely massive for 502. The countdown is now on. We've just decided there will be cake for everybody. Everybody's getting cake. I don't care if you live in Belgium or you live in Australia or Spain or the United States or the weird amount of people that are listening in England. You're all getting cake, particularly Belgium, because you don't even speak English.
Is there a weird amount of people listening in the UK?
Well, more than there was before. It has increased greatly, which we're grateful of. I'm always, but places that don't speak English, I'm always like, oh, like Belgium's one of them. Belgium or is either Belgium or Portugal or both have like you get like consistent listenership from there.
I think it's like the people try to learn English from listening to podcasts.
Or if you're thinking about moving to Ireland and you're like, oh, there's actually these Irish podcasts I'm going to listen to, and I get a sense of the people. So you might listen to like us or Talking Bollocks or your one who lives over in England now, the comedian who has a podcast. You might listen to all these people and you're like, oh, this is what the culture is like.
You're one who lives in England then.
The comedian. What's her name? Joanne McFearty or whatever. I don't know. Really bad on names.
Who the fuck is that?
I don't know. It's probably some mixed two first name and a surname up, and you know, it happens. I just always feel like you have to go out of your way to find us or be looking for a different podcast. Think it's that one and click on to ours. I mean, like,
yeah, because that's never happened.
Yeah, cause this is not. Well, let's give it a minute. Maybe he's on holidays, and these are just interns. I think they haven't talked about history at all.
The history of the word shite.
Yeah, but we have a show for you today.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we haven't really decided even what our running order is.
Just go with it.
Just go with it. I haven't even written down your stories, so I could accidentally forget them. So
both mine are idiots.
And then I've a maybe an idiot. So we will at some point be talking with Hugh Hefner. Two former playmates have a podcast basically where they talk about life in the mansion. So we'll be talking about that and discussing some of the more interesting topics that came up about what it was like living in the Playboy Mansion. Then there is a woman who has been banned from owning a pet. I didn't even know you could be banned from owning a pet. I didn't know this was like, I don't know if there's just going to be pictures of her face in all pet stores like, do not give her a goldfish. She's just banned. She's just like, there's posters just going to send to all pet stores is that you're not allowed to sell her a dog.
Yeah, it's like, it's really extreme to get banned from owning animals. Like, it's a really, really hard thing for them to do, like to actually get a court order to ban you from owning animals.
But like, I wonder how it's enforced. Is it okay to say, oh,
it's easily enforced. Like, I know somebody who's banned from owning animals. It is easily enforced.
What is it? Is it like just like send a picture to pet stores and be like?
Well, no. Like, well, in Ireland, like they do. It's kind of like when you're on probation. Like they do random checks. Like the guards actually call to your gaff and go, any animals?
Here, boy.
And then, like, obviously, your neighbours can ring and say, Mark's got a dog.
Yeah, exactly. Get snitches to like find you out.
Because obviously your animal cruelty conviction has come from somebody going, Mark keeps kicking his dog on a podcast.
Mark keeps threatening his dog that he'll hold his
Yeah, threatening the dog's okay, but you're not actually cruel to your dog.
No.
Like, you only shout at him.
I give them cheese every now and again. They get cheese.
That could be worse than kicking them, Mark.
There's a big debate whether that is worse than is bad for them. I'm like, it's not bad for them. They love it. They go mad when I give them cheese. They're like, and then my ma was giving it out to me, and she gave them lasagna, a full slab of lasagna to them without any hint of irony. The dog's like milling into it. It's like there's fucking cheese passing. I give them a sliver, like a tiny bit, like a really, really small amount, and I got called, "Do not give them cheese." And I was like, they love it. They love cheese.
They're not allowed cheese, just lasagna.
Yeah, just this lasagna. Yeah, then there's a woman, I don't know whether, maybe we just put this girl on for our idiots. There's like a I don't know case if she's an idiot or not, but she has a phobia to Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, if you're a certain James Bond actor. Or Michael Jackson to everybody else. Well, I imagine there'll be a lot of kids, or a few kids anyway, that would have been terrified of Michael Jackson, but that usually comes in to they had a bad encounter with him. She's never met the actor, but is terrified, or not singer. Yeah. And then Ken, you have an idiot. You have two idiots of the week. One shot off his penis.
Yeah.
And the other, I cannot remember. What was the other?
The other one I kind of feel bad for. The other one is, I just feel bad because he's an idiot, is Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people will like Shaquille O'Neal. So if we miss the ball on this one, there's especially our American listeners are going to feel pissed off with us.
Yeah, I like Shaquille O'Neal, but he's a bit of an idiot. Yeah,
I think Shaq is he's a lovable character. I think that's but I guess he was never you wouldn't ask his advice about anything other than maybe sports.
I know, I think he is smart enough. He's a smart enough guy, but he's a bit of an idiot.
Look at there's loads of really there's loads of guys who, in a certain field, they're either innovators or they're very creative, and then it turns around and they come out this nonsense about the Earth being flat or 5G and the vaccine kind of thing. You're like, oh, I actually used to like you. Yeah, I feel I had to stop following Russell Brand, and I was like,
Russell Brand is really, really smart, but he just he can't accept anybody else's you couldn't have a proper discussion with him.
Yeah, well, he'd bring it. I kind of feel like he'd bring everything back to the same spirituality bollocks that he sprouts. That's
what I mean. You can't have a proper conversation with him. He just doesn't. He can never admit that he's wrong. Either way, he'd never be
maybe I was wrong about that. No, he'd be like, no, this is this conspiracy about big corporate and greed and this and that, and being empowering people to want more and more and more consumerism and all these throws isms on other words and be like, and that's why. And you're like, all right, so that's why you don't want McDonald's. If I'm going to McDonald's, I asked, it's you could have said no. You're I'm going to myself Big Mac. Could have said no. Then you go sprout into animal cruelty or something like that, or spiritual, or I don't know.
Yeah, I had to unfollow loads of people on Instagram because I was just oh, here, fuck right off.
Yeah, and it's weird, really weird, where you're like, oh, these people seemed normal, and now I just had to block or unfollow.
Because like at first I'm like, okay, whatever. Like you're every now and then you're putting up some sort of like weird madness that I don't agree with. That's fine. And then it's like, okay, now every fucking thing you say is absolutely off the wall. Good luck to you.
Yeah, no, yeah, see, the thing is, I don't mind people having a different opinion and going on these rants every now and again, but when it's just constant and like, and it's every day, and you're just like, and then you click into it, and it's just like 25 messed arguments of these people going back and forth and stupid points and people just trying to rise at one another, and it's like, I don't know if you've seen this. I was like, it's like, however, like every now and again it's interesting when someone goes off the deep end and has like a rant, but like, I kind of was like, unfollow, like, I don't have to deal with this.
Yeah, so just fuck off.
Yeah, like, I don't have to listen to these people being crazy.
These cray peeps.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we'll go on to talk about cray peeps. Hugh Hefner's ex-playmates have a new podcast out, and they basically spilled the beans or details about what life was like living in Playboy Mansion and having sex with Hugh Hefner, which I imagine wouldn't be pleasant anyway.
Why are these women still trying to make fucking money off like his name?
Yeah, so like that's the thing. Like, they call it gross and a chore about having sex, and so they're not really like implying about like some kind of coercion or some kind of way like he maliciously goaded them into having sex with him, and they really didn't want to, but like felt like there was no other option to do it, and like they're not kind of painting him as this sinister character. They're kind of openly like, this. We knew that like if we didn't have sex with him, obviously he's going to kick us out and find two other girls that would have sex with him, and there's a whole line of other ones that were willing to have sex, even though they probably would have thought it was equally gross. Because like I think it was the idea of being a playmate and living in this mansion and these parties and the lifestyle that would entail, and the money and all that.
Like, it's pretty much just gold diggers giving out about digging for gold.
Pretty much, yeah. But like, I remember listening to interviews former playmates, and like generally, like most of them had pretty good things. Like his ex-wife, one of his ex-wives, he had loads of ex-wives, were lived next door to him. Like because of the divorce, like she was entitled to a certain amount of his profits, and like basically build a house next door, would come in every now and again, but just didn't have to have sex with him, and was also like, and he kind of made reference to it in the interview. He's like, oh yeah, all my ex-wives love me, like they're rich because of it, and I kind of knew that like it was basically like his retirement package to them is like, okay, during your early 20s or some make into their 30s, we'll be married, and then you can divorce and get a bit of my wealth, and I get to ride you when you're young, and you get to retire gracefully wherever you want. And that was, it was, he didn't say in that much words, but like he was kind of referenced like, yeah, all my ex-wives are doing really well, and because like I'm rich and they married me and they got, but then look at, I've all these other new 20-something-year-olds lining right up to be the next Mrs. Hefner.
Because like ultimately they knew what they were getting into.
Yeah, and they did like that's what they said. They in it, like the idea, like they had to, basically was a chore. It was one of their jobs. The podcast is called Girls Next Door Level, and but like there's probably more to that. I probably didn't copy and paste the best, but it's girls. I'm sure if you search "Girls Next Door," it'll pop up. Which is hosted by next playmate called Bridget Margaret. I want to say Margaret. MARGRET. Uaordt.
No idea.
Madsen, anyway. We'll just call her Madsen. And Bridget, who are the two playmates who are talking here, who Madsen dated Hefner from 2001 to 2008 and says none of the females were into it. And it said, but like, sorry, to burst your bubble, according to the ex-playmates, they would often like have sex in front of each other, or like at least in like there'd be people around them while they're having sex, and the girls, while they're having sex with Hefner, the other girls, not maybe watching, maybe not watching, maybe just watching TV, would be like talking shit about them. It would be like they're having sex with Hugh Hefner, and the girls are kind of in the room or in around the house, and they're like just talking about the girls having sex with him, like talking shit about them. And he says it's like a really bitchy atmosphere.
Then why did you stay there for 7 years?
Exactly. They say that you're literally sitting there naked, having sex in front of a group of people who hate you and talk shit about you while you're having sex, and you hear it. So they're like, but it basically explained that like it was basically a chore. It was basically one of their jobs, because if they didn't do it, they would go kicked out of the house. So like that was basically the whole synopsis of it. The whole podcast is basically them talking about giving a behind the scenes look at what it was like being a playmate. But like the thing was their choice to get into this kind of profession? Was their choice to stay?
Not only get into it, it's their choice to like stay there. Like, so when they start doing this and they're like, I really don't like this, leave.
Yeah, exactly. Like your one Madsen was only dating him, so I'm pretty sure she could go like, you know what, I want out. And like this was, I don't think they had a formal contract, but even still, there probably would have been an escape clause in these contracts. Like I know there's certain porn industries like would often get girls really drunk and get them to sign these contracts where they're making fuck all money, and it kind of they exploit them of like their naivety and like take advantage of them that way. And it's easy for people to sit out on the outside, go like, oh well, why didn't they just leave? Or like maybe they had a contract where they had to fulfill a certain amount of movies or whatever that they were legally inclined to, and if they pulled out, it would have been more money than they actually had to pay it off. They couldn't pay themselves off, but they signed up to it.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, did Hugh Hefner do contracts? I don't know.
Like, well, they're like they said, like these are relationships. Like one was married to him, and the other one was dated him for 7 years. So like they wasn't necessarily a professional thing. It was more seeing that, yeah, you can basically stay here and I'll fuck you, and that's basically your rent, is having sex with Hugh Hefner, and you get to go to all these parties, live in this mansion. He'll probably buy you nice things, but basically your job is just to fuck this gross old man, as you call it. But like the alternative to them is getting a job, which seems a lot more gross.
Yeah, like that's obviously where they're coming from. It's like, I don't want to like go and do anything real.
Yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, so like, I don't know. Like, I don't really know the ins and outs of like how he got these girls to sign up to these contracts, whether there was coercion or not. There hasn't been anyone come out anyway, even after he died, that said that it was anything other than the girls knew what they were getting themselves into. Like, it was very open. Now there might be into the future, and there might be one or two to come out and say, no, actually, it wasn't right what he did, blah blah blah. But there hasn't been yet, so we can't really judge what we don't know. But that whole industry is kind of seedy and disgusting.
Like I just looked up these girls. So like your one Bridget,
Yeah.
she's married to a guy from 1997 to 2008. Like she was married to a guy while she was with Hugh Hefner from 2002 to 2009.
Oh, really?
Like, so what's that about?
That's an interesting relationship. That like her first of all, her husband was like, yeah, cool,
Like,
go do your job, but like,
yeah. And then she left the Playboy Mansion in 2009. So like, obviously in 2009 she was like, I've had enough of this.
yeah, and like the other girl quit in 2008. I don't know when like Playboy started kind of shutting down. I remember they went like they wouldn't do any nudes. It was just gonna be more. Everything was gonna be like clothed women was their big stance, and they take. And then I was just like, they stopped publishing then soon after.
Yeah, weird. Like,
yeah, so I don't really know too much about the like Playboy the company anymore, or who runs it necessarily anymore. Or is it just gone?
Let's find that out.
Yeah, that's an interesting. What happened to the Playboy Mansion?
It's still going.
Yeah, who's at the head of the Playboy Mansion now?
Ben Cohen.
All right, who's Ben Cohen?
No idea.
No.
But it's only an online website now.
Yeah, like most porn is now these days.
So it was monthly until 2016. Then it was every 2 weeks. Then from 2017 to 18, then it was quarterly, so once every 3 months. Then from 19 to 20, and now it's online.
All right. Interesting.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah. So we'll leave it there. So like, I think they're just kind of just two gold diggers, really, and it's like they're still. One of the things I think we were saying off air is kind of discussing after they both entered this quite openly. They knew what they were getting into, and they've been able to make somewhat of a living off it. And like now, all they're trying to do is making money off his name, but shitting all over it is at that. And like, it's different if there was something sinister going on, like he coerced these girls into doing these things, and they felt kind of trapped or something like that. But if it was like an open thing where they knew what they were getting into, but now they're just shitting all over a man who died, who gave them probably a pretty good standard of living.
Yeah, like I'm assuming they knew, and especially if one left in 2008 and one left in 2009, like they were obviously free to leave.
Yeah, exactly. Like 7 years is a long time to stick out something that you don't want to do anymore. I know that obviously, like they probably are approaching their 30s or whatever. Like they often say, like these girls have like expiry dates, and then they've spent the last however many amount of years doing this, and they're not really qualified to do anything else.
Like, so I don't know.
Yeah. So the next story, will we talk about quiet quitting?
Go for it.
Yeah, and then we have idiots. This is fun to the end of the show, and said the sticking in quiet quitting. So, do you know what is quiet quitting?
It's basically just doing your job.
Pretty much. That's all.
Doing nothing extra.
Yeah, pretty much is basically doing your job. I don't really know why it has to be changed to this quiet quit, because you're not actually doing your job. You're not actually quitting your job. You don't plan on leaving. Because like when I first heard this, I thought it was maybe you've kind of given up and you're not really trying anymore in work, and you're just like you've figured out a way of getting off as much work as possible, and like you're not even doing the bare minimum, but you're able to fly under the radar. You know these guys who wander around places and are just like, you're like, how do you still have it? Who's paying you to do this? And they've just been there for so long. It's harder to get rid of them than it is just to keep them and pay them a weekly wage. That they just do like fuck off, but like they've been there for ages. They've run the place basically.
Like I seen a director on TV talking about this, and they were like a company director, and they were like, oh, like quiet quitting. It's really annoying because you should vet. We should start to vet our employees to ensure that this will never happen. Because if somebody is clocking off at like 5 o'clock, but their work's not done, like why are they not staying there till 7? And like the presenter was like, are you paying them till 7? And like, no.
Yeah.
Like, so why would you stay there?
But even still, even if you were paying them, like you're paying them while they're in work, it's still the point where the people probably got up at 7 o'clock to get to work. They're in for 9. They work till 5, and if they leave at 5, they mightn't get back to 7, or through traffic, or or they get up, or or 6:30. Like it takes them maybe an hour and a half to get into work, or an hour to get into work, and like so if you stay there to 7, you're just basically you're getting up, you're going home, and you don't see your family, or you don't get out and go training or whatever people want to do. So yeah, like it's like I think one of this article basically was saying this has come more evidence. The reason why it's probably happened, and no one was really talking about it before the pandemic, because there wasn't a shortage of staff. So there would be probably a lot of people coming in to do, or there wouldn't be that many job vacancies, or if there was a job vacancy, you'd stick out like applications and you get load of people applying for the job. But now that maybe people, especially for a qualified position, so if you need a qualification to get into that position and there's a vacancy, the people who are there probably have to take over the responsibility of the vacant spot as well as their own job. And that's why it's now starting to come a thing where people are starting to push back and be like, no, I'm not taking on extra workload. I'm only taking on the workload that I'm meant to, and you're going to have to find somebody else to fill that role because I'm not doing that anymore.
Like I don't understand why you're expected to.
Yeah, like a lot of places would preach about work-life balance, and that's why the 40-hour week was kind of brought into. Is necessary. Everyone who works does those 40 hours, but it was basically a measurement to say like this is acceptable amount of time a person should be expected to work to, like, and like even like economies are based off that, like, whereas economies that are doing really well, their workforce doesn't go over 40 hours because they don't feel like they have to. And when inflation starts, you start to see hours creep up. People do overtime, people do extra hours because they need to earn more money. And just generally a sign that like an economy isn't doing really bad when you have to work over 40 hours in order to have a standard of living.
And even you've got like countries and companies and stuff trialing like 4-day weeks, like working less to try and, well, they found that it does boost productivity and stuff.
Yeah, well, I think in certain cases it would. Like it's very hard to know this, but I know like a lot of them are like, oh, so instead of doing 5 days a week, 8 hours, you do, I think it was like 4 12-hour days. And I was like, I know people who are doing 5 12-hour days. I know the people who are doing 15-hour days into a 12-hour day and are doing close to 60 hours a week and working 5 days a week. They cannot do 4 days a week. You can't cram that hours into any less than the 5 days that they actually work. It's like, it's not going to happen. So like, I think in certain places it would, but like in certain other
was it Sweden that done it? Sweden introduced a 4-day week, and it's not working longer every day. It's literally, we just eliminated a day of work, and it lowered unemployment because now you need to hire more people, and like wages stay the same. So everybody's like weekly wages stayed the same. You're working less, and they found it actually boosted everybody's productivity.
But I wonder, would people be like, because obviously you work 4 days, but are you able to survive off? Remember I said like about what people can actually afford to live off. Like, are you being paid the same as 5 days?
Yeah, you're being paid the same as you were. Like if you're being paid, say, €500 for working 5 days a week, you're still being paid €500 for working 4 days a week.
Yeah, like I think right now we're in I think someone said like it's like a 94% employment, A lot of countries are experience a similar thing. So like I don't know if necessarily saying, oh well, we'll just find other people. That's what I mean. Like there's certain jobs where you need qualifications in order to do it, and it's not as easy as sticking, oh, we'll just find some other people who have these qualifications, because the qualifications, a lot of people are either leaving to go to like other countries to work there, or there's not to be got in the country. So like the idea of taking an extra day off an already like stretched industry is like probably just not possible. I would imagine anyway.
Because it's mostly companies that are doing this are mostly companies that like you do need qualifications for. Like it's not like restaurants and like the retail sector and stuff. It is like companies where you're like IT specialists and you're like banks and shit like that. Like it isn't like, even they're trialing it in Ireland. Like there's a few companies. It's like Intel and companies like that are trialing it. It's not. I know
what you call a few of the council workers. They're also trialing for the 4-day week as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the quiet quitting, back to that. Like I don't see this notion of where like the minimum. I remember was once described me is what like your job requirements is the minimum I expect you to do. It's what you do more that's gonna be like keep people in jobs. And I never signed up to that thing of like where it's like
your contract is basically the minimum that's expected.
No, it's what is expected, and if we want more from you, we'll break out a new contract and we'll offer you such, and we'll take it on this. Because I think I've heard of places where they've offered new roles to staff, and there's been like very minimum uptake of interest of the role. Like they're not getting people applying to it. And I was like, all right. And like, was it like a pay increase? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, then why would people apply to it?
Yeah, that's happening where I work. That's happening, and it's like, oh, if you want the pay increase, like, this is what you have to go through to get to like a permanent position at this level to get that pay increase.
Yeah.
Okay, but how long am I going to have to do a job that I'm not going to be paid for?
Yeah, but
it could be 2 or 3 years. Not doing it then.
I'm not doing it. Yeah, exactly. Because then suddenly you forgot about the pay increase. But the thing is, like, oh, it's a responsibility. It looks good on your CV. That's what they're marketing as, is like, oh well, if on your CV it has this role, it looks really good. But like, you're like, so you want people to quit your job?
Yeah, that is the other thing. Like, yeah, to be like, oh, it looks good.
Yeah, well, I can kind of like this quiet quitting has basically been my mentality. Was I do my 5 days. I don't do over my 5 days. If I'm asked to come on my day off, the answer 99.9% of the time will be no. Because like, even like when they say, oh well, do you have any plans? And you're like, vaguely I have plans. I have an idea what I'm going to do on my day off. But even if I didn't have plans,
like, my new thing is, oh, do you have any plans on your day off tomorrow? None of your business.
Yeah, exactly. Is it like? But the thing is, like, even if you had sort of an idea, it still means that you can't. Like, it mightn't be that important. It might be just something as trivial as, oh well, I was going to go meet my friends for a coffee. But the thing is, like, not getting to do that, like that means, okay, it's only a coffee. You can meet them at the weekend or whatever. But it's still something that you probably built into your routine, or you look forward, or maybe do an extra day training, or you might go see your girlfriend. You might do whatever. It might be something trivial as that. But it still means, like, it breaks up the work week for you. It breaks up where you're not just focusing on work, and you're enjoying your time off. So I always was like reluctant to ever. Anytime, like, I don't get asked anymore. Because like there's a lot of people that will do 5-6 days a week, and I've seen lads just be burnt out, and to the point where it's like you need to say something like, you're not doing this, because it was kind of like, you take an inch, you give them an inch, you take a mile. Like, you work your day off, and then next week it's the same. You're down because you're covering someone, and then someone else is off. So you're you're constantly in that loop of like, oh, will you cover that person as well?
Like that was the thing that kind of like sealed it for me. Like during the pandemic, like we had no like boss, so like I stepped into that role, got no extra pay for it, whatever. Just did it because somebody needed to fucking do it, and then like I ended up going out sick with like work related stress, and the reaction that I got to that was it's not a convenient time.
Yeah, it's not really convenient. Can you suffer from your mental illness at some
Yeah,
other convenient time? That maybe when we get more staff, because we have the guy come in this. But the thing is, like, someone come in who has more experience, or they might get somebody in who fills that role. They'll come in and they'll get paid straight away, whereas
yeah.
you were filling that role and got no thanks for it. And that's where I think there's this.
Like the person who eventually came in to fill that role used to still ask me, "What the fuck am I supposed to be doing?"
Yeah, that's where another thing, like, where people would be there for a while, they're not really qualified to be in the position, and they, like, someone will start who's a manager and be on a lot more money than them, but will be constantly asking them how to do things, how things work. So it's like, I remember, and they would never go for it. I remember a friend, and like he used to know his place inside out, and be like, I'm like, why don't you ever like apply for the next position? He goes, oh, I don't want to. Like, I already know how to do it. And it's like, well, you get more money. Like, there's like, oh, they could have put me as it. Like, he had a weird kind of thing where he's like, I'm not going to apply for it. It should be, but like that. Like, he said the managers would come in all the time and be like, no, and basically spend like next few months training in the manager to do the job right. But then your man would start bossing him around. He's getting pissed off at it. And it's like, well, he's your manager.
Yeah, like there's a lot of like annoyances with it. Like where I work, like to move up, they can send you anywhere, like within an hour's drive of your house. But it's not taken from like actually being an hour from your house. Like to take the average speed limit in Ireland, like given all the roads, the average speed limit is 100 kilometers.
Yeah.
So they like will pinpoint where your house is and take like a compass that's like for 100 kilometers and draw a circle. And anywhere within that circle they can send you. But like that could be like an hour and a half, 2 hours drive, because the speed limit is not going to be 100 kilometers the whole way. It's going to be 80, 60, 50, because you're going to be going through towns and whatever. Like they could send you to, I know a guy who was living in Tullamore and had to go to Cavan.
Jesus.
Like, that's a fucking big ass drive.
Yeah, like, that's kind of like you'd need to move at that stage to go up. Like, you know.
Yeah, and like that's not something that I'm going to do. And then again, like generally posts only last like 6 months to a year. So you move to Cavan because the drive is taking you fucking 4 hours there and back every day.
Yeah, and they move you somewhere else then.
They move you somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a weird setup, and yeah, I just think there's a lot more. I think there's been always a gradual decrease in what workers get to what they what's expected of them, and it's just an erosion of like maybe slightly longer days, and then but it's pretty much the same pay or whatever. There's been a gradual decreasing in like whether you're expected more for the same, or where profit margins in certain larger companies are going up, yet the workers earn the same and standard of living. Like, it seems like it's more of a squeeze now. Like, it's harder to like be able to afford rent on a basic salary. Whereas I remember my sister was over in Australia, and she was saying like minimum wage, you could comfortably survive off minimum wage in Australia, but over here, there's no way you could survive. It was minimum wage, or not minimum wage. Minimum wage, which is like probably €300. Is it €330?
What, minimum wage?
Yeah,
it's fucking a lot less.
Is it 250?
Depends how many hours you're working. It's like,
let's say 5 days a week. You're doing your 40 hours on minimum wage. Probably going to.
But that's it. Jobs that pay minimum wage, you're generally not doing 40 hours. You're generally only going to be doing about 20.
Oh, I know factory workers that kind of are being screwed off a bit.
Minimum wage is $1,600 a month.
1,600 a month. Yeah. So like living off that, where most people
Like that's
like
so if you're saying 40 hours, that works out a tenner a month, a tenner an hour.
Yeah. Like if you're earning that, and let's say you're renting a place which is usually 1,200, so you're renting a place, half your rent is gone on straight away. If you're sharing it on rent, and that's like unless you have a load of people there, bunk beds kind of a job.
Bunk beds.
Yeah, people living in like shared rooms, they have bunk beds. It happens. So like we'll talk about our idiots of the week. Well, I don't know if this is an idiot. So this is a part of the show created for idiots by idiots, and where we talk about people doing really dumb things. And your one woman, it's not. Yeah, like I think she just does. Maybe not an idiot of the week, but probably deserves to be called names anyway. So she is being banned from owning animals after offering or feeding her monkey kebabs and offering her cocaine. Now, when I originally seen this title, I was like, well, she only offered cocaine. The monkey didn't have to say yes. So your one's name is Vicky Holland. She was banned from owning animals for life after feeding the pet monkey kebabs and offering her cocaine. It's the bit I found it more distressing rather than her like feeding the monkey kebabs and offering her cocaine was that she was a mother of 4. So like what's she doing to her kids, or what kind of way her kids are being brought up when their ma's clearly doing cocaine and probably other drugs on top of that, and has an animal. A monkey wouldn't be the most safest things to have around kids.
A monkey wouldn't be the most safest thing to have, full stop.
Yeah. She's 39 years old, and she basically was filming herself offering Millie, which is the monkey, cocaine, holding the drugs up and asking, want some coke? Lick my finger, kind of a thing. She also showed feeding kebab sausages and burgers and encouraging the dog to chase and terrify the marmoset. I don't know what happened there. Marmoset. Yeah. This had, when your computer stalls and starts making weird noises. That's what happened there. It's a marmoset. It's like a little small, looks like a squirrel, not squirrel. It doesn't look like a monkey. It's like
the little black and white lad.
Yeah. And in another basically video, she was laughing while trying to flush the monkey down the toilet, asking, telling him to come out because she really needed to pee, or she wanted to pee, and she just kept flushing the toilet as the marmoset clung on and struggled to hold itself basically up. Basically, but what happened was that the police raided her house over drugs, and basically when they accessed her phone, they found these videos of her doing all this shit to the monkey, and it was like, okay, we need to get the animal control in here and take this monkey out of this place. And she was sentenced for her drugs, and then had 3 animal cruelty convictions, which she admitted to, pleaded guilty, so where she was banned from owning animals for life. And
good.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing was I was reading that, I was like, Jesus, that is dreadful, but what about our fucking kids? And I know some people go, oh, I really can't stand animal cruelty, even over human cruelty. But in that situation where I was she has 4 kids.
I'm assuming in that situation, since they found the videos and stuff of the monkey, I'm assuming they probably interviewed their kids.
They should. Well, there shouldn't be an interview. It should be like, I'm taking your kids off
Yeah,
you.
but like they probably like to see like if there's anything to charge with. They probably like talk to the kids and were like, she doesn't seem to be doing anything fucked up to the kids.
Well,
and maybe the kids don't live with her.
Yeah, well, that could be the case too. But like, if the police are raiding your house, they've obviously have suspicion. They don't think you're just taking drugs there. You're obviously either dealing drugs or stashing them. They're already like have already had investigators watching your house, and then has decided to raid it because of this. They're not going to raid people who are just doing coke on the weekend, kind of a job. It's usually if you're selling coke on the weekend. So it's just like, what kind of life is that for kids, especially if she's selling it out of her house, of like where you're constantly seeing drug paraphernalia. Your mother's probably off her head in coke as well, like throughout the day. Like, but like you said, they might have like, she mightn't have custody of her kids because of her, and she just takes it out on her monkey, basically. Can't flush her kids down the toilet anymore, so she's going to do it to her monkey.
She's the kind of person that you kind of wish the monkey attacked. Yeah,
well, it's too small, like to attack. It couldn't defend itself. It was taken to like a rehabilitation center for wild animals like that. It's like where it's gonna get a new home. Well, yeah, like we were talking about last week. We were like, oh well, you just have to heavily drug a monkey, and we kind of could be like a drunk monkey. But obviously, when you see the reality of that, it's a lot more shocking. But I guess like there's a difference between having a drunk monkey and having a monkey where you keep flushing it down the toilet.
Yeah.
Right, two different things there. Yeah, so then our next idiot is a man who shot off his penis.
Yeah, well, cut
off his penis. I don't know why you said shot.
Yeah, he cut it off. So this guy in where the fuck is he? Ghana. He cut off his dick and balls in his sleep.
So was he having like a nightmare where he thought like?
Well, first of all, I don't really understand what he was doing, because he went to sleep with a knife in his hand.
Yeah,
as you do.
Like, you always want your nice knife beside you, just in case you wake up to a person trying to like attack you. You want to be armed.
Yeah, like I don't really know what the fuck. And
maybe seeing House of Dragons, right? And he's like, swords are cool again. I am sleeping with my sword.
Like the interview with him that is here, I can't decipher because he's talking in that weird kind of, it's English but it's not English kind of dialect. Broken but his English? Wife, huh?
Broken English?
No. You know the way somebody we know posts on Facebook sometimes, where it's like English. Like one thing he says is, it just makes no sense. You can't fucking decipher what he's saying. Yeah, there's not words. Like he's saying, like
translating it from a second language to, and it doesn't really make sense.
It just makes no sense what he's saying.
Kind of when Click like post something about, are you talking about Click now, or somebody else?
I don't know what he's fucking talking.
No, but anyway. you know who I'm talking about when I say Click.
Not really, no.
All right.
What's Click?
Click is a person we used to know who would perform No, it wasn't physiotherapy. It was where you crack your neck. What's that called? Chiropractor. He performed chiropractor on people and didn't have great English. And instead of using English, he'd go, just use broken English and be like, click good, no click bad. And then he'd be like, you crack your back and go, click good. And yes. And you're like, oh, grand, you'll feel better. And you're like, yes. Thank you. Click. So he got nicknamed it, but like he would post sometimes on Facebook, and clearly it's just he obviously is doing it directly from like Google Translate, and it doesn't really make sense.
Okay, I get you. I think like the way this guy's talking is it called pygmy or something? You know that
Pygmy.
it's like broken English, but it's like mixed with fucking African languages.
All right. Well,
Anyway, whatever. Right. So what I'm getting from this is basically just the way that it's reported by people over there. So his wife had been traveling at the time this happened and came home and seen her husband bleeding, holding his penis in his hand or whatever. So she said that she received a distress call from a neighbor, and the neighbor said, "Your husband is bleeding profusely as he has cut off his manhood with a sharp knife." So she came home and found him, and this is a quote, sitting on a chamber pot full of blood with his penis in his hand, and brought him diapers to support my husband from losing his manhood, and took him to the hospital. So, like, obviously they're trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. So he said that he had a dream where he had slaughtered a goat and he was butchering the goat and he cut his dick off.
But like, does he explain why he had the knife in his hand while he was sleeping? Like, does he go?
Nope.
This is something they do in that side of the world, and it's normal. Don't need to explain it. Of course, I had my knife.
He says that he doesn't really know why he had a knife.
All right, he doesn't. Oh my god!
Surely you were going. I'm going to sleep now. I'm going to put the knife down.
Maybe he was also, after a long time using his knife, he came back in and he sat in his bed, he's like watching a bit of TV, and he's like, I'm going to take a nap. A bit tired, forgot he had a really sharp object, and I also have like really bad night terrors where he wakes up while still asleep and starts swinging stuff around. Because like Michael Bisping, he said he like fucked his wife at a wall, thinking that like the fan in the room was going to come down and cut her off or in half or something like. So he like threw her out away or stuff like that, and he like ran naked down and tried to climb over a fence and all. And it was like he like has really bad night terrors, and it's a dangerous combination because like he's a fucking trained mixed martial arts fighter who can feel like he's being attacked at any stage and run out of his house and be like a liability because he sleeps naked. Any sort of thing, it's like it happens every now and again to him. So like it's a bad combination if this is happening to you. If you're known for like getting up while still asleep and doing like sleepwalking or doing stuff like that, and you sleep with sharp objects, like bad things are going to happen to you.
Yeah, I don't know why he did it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll move on to Shaq.
Shaq.
Yeah. Why is Shaq an idiot of the week?
Like, I really like Shaq.
Yeah.
But Shaq thinks the earth is flat.
Yeah. And
Shaq's logic for thinking the earth is flat is because he flew to Australia and never went upside down. And like he said this was he on a TV show? He was on a radio show called Kyle and Jackie O.
Yeah.
In Australia. And he said that like it started off, he's like, oh, like I like conspiracy theories. And then they were like, okay, whatever. And he said, like, I flew 20 hours today. Never once did I go upside down. I didn't tip over. I didn't go upside down. And they were kind of like,
What are you getting at, Shaq?
Yeah, like, obviously you're not going to go upside down. And he was like, yeah, but like, it's a straight line. You never go under anything. It's a straight line. And they were like, but you can get to Australia by going any direction. And he was like, yeah, well, think about this. You know the way they say the world is spinning? I've been living on a house on a lake for 30 years and not once has that lake rotated. Okay.
So he's kind of like, oh, I've never seen the water start to swirl.
Yeah,
no one ever explained to like magnetic poles and gravity and anything like that.
Like he says, then he said, like, the Earth is flat. He's like, I'm just saying, when I drive from Florida to New York, it's flat. New York to Seattle, it's flat. Seattle to LA, it's flat. LA to Florida, it's flat.
Yeah. So like, I don't like sound logic there.
But like, isn't that kind of how roads work?
Well, yeah. Generally, like, they're gonna make the roads as straight as possible. Obviously, with mountains, you can't really do too much of that. Like, it's also like people who never leave America. America's is a vast place, but I kind of feel like this. Like, there's a lot of Americans who don't ever leave America. Don't ever like get out of the United States. They travel. Like, if you want to go have any sort of holiday or experience, you can nearly have it in America because it's such a vast, different landscape. There's deserts, then there's places with like rocky mountains who are cold, and then you have like Miami, which is like this tropical paradise. You have everything in basically in America that you need. But like, I kind of feel like you then get this inner, like, this is how the world is, and there's no differences outside. Like, you get insulated, basically. I think a lot of Americans get insulated, and they don't realize there's a world out there that's so much different than over here. And if they just like go to Europe or go to these places and actually spend a bit of time experiencing the culture, or just learning about other cultures and how they work, they actually would. I think it's just a lot of like, there's just a lot of insulation in America, like.
Like, I don't know.
I get where he's coming from. I don't agree with it, but I get what he's saying. Like, obviously has no understandings of physics, but like, he's just like, he's used to holding balls, and he's used to knowing when his hand's on the top of the ball and on the bottom of the ball. And if Australia's meant to be on the bottom of the ball, well, then I should go upside down. I should feel like I'm going around the ball. I should feel like I'm going around. Like, it's a bad logic, but you can kind of see where he's come from.
Like, your feet are always on the ground, so you're never going to feel like you're upside down.
Yeah.
You're only going to be upside down from somebody who is completely outside of the planet, looking at the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a globe. If you stick like a little Action Man or a car on top of a globe, it looks like it's on top of it. Stick it on the bottom, it looks like it's on the bottom. But to the man in the car, it's in the same position.
Yeah, exactly. You'd have to have a very tiny car.
Yeah, like on a little, like a little fucking stupid little micro machine car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's just yeah, exactly. I don't think people really thinks it through too much about like any of the thought processes of how like about it. I just think there's a really poor understanding of.
I think some of it is, it's kind of there's a certain part of society maybe that thinks it's cool to like not follow a normal thought process. So like, oh, it's kind of cool to say the Earth's flat.
Well, it's just like question everything. So that's kind of the logic here. Whereas it's like, how do you know? Like, you should question like whatever your most rock solid beliefs are. Question it, because it could be wrong, and they. Like, there's a poor lack of understanding about how anything works, about how internet works. We all just trust our phones will have internet or should have internet. We all just trust that like a light switch comes on. But can anybody really explain to the average person? He said, how does the coil heat up, or what causes light to come out of the coil that gives it the glow? People will be like, and like when a kid asks a parent, like, why is the sky blue? And they're like, oh, it's something to do with this. They have a vague understanding of why the sky is blue. But they like the rock solid like belief where I can tell you confidently this is why the sky is blue. There's probably one or two parents that can do that. The vast majority of them can't. And I kind of think that's what we get with the flat earthers, is where no, they don't really understand space or gravity or how the Earth spins around or anything like this. It's just like they've been out of school so long, they didn't really get taught great about it in the first place, and they're like, well, actually, this person who says this confidently and explains it in this way that a 5-minute video on YouTube makes us some good points, and they can kind of get caught into that kind of wormhole.
Yeah, but there you go. Shaq's a fucking idiot.
Shaq's an idiot. I think, I think we're going to have to leave it with Shaq's an idiot because we're out of time. And maybe we'll have Shaq on one time to explain his thoughts, give us why he has to.
And you know what? I think he'd be up for that.
Yeah, I think he would come on the Shite Talk podcast show. Maybe 502.
Maybe, yeah, 502. Shaq's going to be on.
Yeah, exactly. Say it now. We'll talk to you then.
He's going to bring the cake.
Yeah, he's for everybody. He'll dish out the cake to all our listeners. Personally hand it to Shaq so he can experience air travel and different cultures.
Yeah, sure. If the Earth's flat, it'd be grand. It won't take him more than an hour to get to everybody.
Yeah. Talk to you then.
Good luck.
No.